Good morning, friends. I want to share with you again from Psalm 23. Let me read the first couple of verses for you. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. That's actually the first three verses. Now, in previous devotions, we've talked about the green pastures and we've talked about the still or the quiet waters. And so today I want to touch for just a couple of minutes on the paths of righteousness. Now, in order to do that, I want to show you some pictures that I took one recently in my trip to Israel. So please hang in here with me as I'm trying to figure this all out. This is a picture of a flock of sheep and goats on a hillside. Now, all these little brown dots you see here are sheep and goats. And if you'll notice, they're kind of lined up in lines. You can see it best perhaps down in this bottom left area of the picture. They're all lined up in lines and they're all following one another as they traverse the hillside. Now, I have another picture I want to show you that's connected to this. Oh, wait a minute, that's the wrong picture. That's not connected to the sheep and the goats and the paths of righteousness at all. But it is a herd of camels. And camels are cool, right? I mean, let's just face it, camels are cool. And so I stuck this camel picture in here because I wanted to show you a picture of camels. The guy in the blue riding on a donkey right there is the shepherd along with his herd of camels. We were out in the desert and they came right on past us there. But here is a picture that allows you to see one of these hillsides, that all these little lines that go along the hillsides are paths. Because as the flocks walk the hillside, they don't walk up the hill and down the hill, they walk across the hillside and they follow one another. The sheep walk with their heads down, they walk directly behind the sheep in front of them, and they just follow the same path. And over the years, they've created these paths all over the hillsides. Here's another view to give you another picture of that. Again, you can see the lines going across the hillside here. Those are the lines that come from the flocks walking across it. And of course, there's a camel because camels are just cool. Now, let's see if I can change back here. Okay, so those paths, those lines that you saw on the hillside there would be the paths of righteousness. These are the paths that the flocks walk on as they follow the shepherds through the hills as they're grazing. Now, the important thing to notice about those paths is that there's a lot of them, and that the flocks don't travel all one after another in a straight line, but that there are a whole series of lines, a whole series of paths that the flocks walk, and they're all following the shepherd in different lines as they walk along. And that's the thing that I want to point out to us today, is God doesn't call us all to be identical. He calls us all to follow him. And as we follow him, we each do it in our own path of life. Some do it as homemakers, some do it as business people, some do it as single people, some do it as married people. But we are all called to follow him. And as long as we are following him, then we are being what he wants us to be. Now, they're called paths of righteousness. Righteousness are righteous acts, doing the right thing. But really, the idea behind this is not just doing the right thing, but doing the right thing in the context of a relationship. You might remember in Matthew, in the first chapter, when Joseph heard that Mary was pregnant, it says that because he was a righteous man, he wanted to divorce her quietly. In other words, he wanted to treat her well. He wanted to do what was right in the relationship in that situation. And so when we are called to walk on paths of righteousness, we're called to follow Jesus, our shepherd, in the way that is right in terms of relationships so that we can love one another well. To love God well is to love people well. Or maybe I should say that the other way around. By loving people well, we are loving God also. And that's the last point of this. It says we follow the path of righteousness for his name's sake. We carry God's name. And so the way that we treat others, the way we treat one another, is recognized by our society, by the people around us, and is applied to God and God's reputation. I have unfortunately heard people say, well, look at the way those people treat one another. Why would I want anything to do with a God like that? I've also heard people say, look at the way those people care for one another. I want something like that. I want to know what causes that. And so the choices that we make in the way we care for one another, is the way we follow our shepherd, makes a difference for those who don't know him. Well, I hope that gives you thought for today. Have a great and blessed day.